Well, I think I will take it away. So basically, we've talked about that and we talked about our different variables, and now we have to develop the treatment plan. And most of us may be in dentistry, and we know how our patients feel about when we give them the treatment plan. They get mad at us and everything because they're like, I just want a prophy. I don't want that, or I don't want a crown. It should be a filling and everything like that. So basically, you have to remember that we are your friends and everything. So when you have a good friend, your friend tells you the truth. Your friend will tell you that you have spinach in your teeth. Those pants make you look fat for real. The person that you're crushing on is trash. Stop it. And you're drinking too much. All those stuff that associate won't tell you because they don't want to offend you or they don't really care about you that much. We're your friends, so we're going to tell you the truth. So the truth is basically is that we have the power. We have the power to change our lives and to find different ways to heal our burnout. For the most part, we're always going to have those different things that happen. Life happens, good and bad, and we have to make adjustments. But we have to remember that there's different things that can help us. So depending on what your particular diagnosis is, as we talked about earlier, you have to vary that treatment plan. So just like with our patients, not everyone gets the same thing. You have a different variable treatment plan. You have to think about that for yourself. So the main thing is your mindset. At times we have to change our mindset. And I always talk about Dr. Brene Brown. I like her. She's going to be a smile con. I won't be there, but anyways, but she's going to be there. And so in her book, she talks about the story you're telling yourself. So sometimes we tell ourselves a particular story like we're stuck. We're always going to be stuck. Life is always going to be like this, and there's no changing. And we have to really work on our mindset. So thinking about positive thoughts daily. What helps me, like I said, a lot is I try to start my day with positive compilations from YouTube of professional popular speakers, Les Brown or Eric Thomas or Jim Rohn or something. So I try to start that because that gets my juices going towards positivity, especially when I'm exercising. So then I get those endorphins as well. And then we have to really think about what our personal beliefs are. Is our belief trash? And that we think that maybe we're having a problem or we're having confidence issues or it's all because of our fault. What's going on in the office is our fault. We're not a good clinician. We don't speak up for ourselves. We're going to always be bullied. So we have to really work on that. And to work on that, sometimes we have to invest in ourselves. So that's coaching, that may be therapy, that may be getting self-help books, and talked about journaling. So that's actually sitting down and doing the hard work. So often we have to do the hard work and everything, because if we don't put in that hard work, nothing is going to change. And then remembering that we personally have different boundaries. So I'm constantly working on boundaries. Part of the problem throughout my career is I had no boundaries. I didn't know boundaries were. What's that? And everything. I just existed. I just thought if I treated everyone the same, those Christian values that I grew up with, that would happen. And that's not really true. And a lot of times that's seen as weakness in society or in the workforce. So developing those boundaries, saying no when we want to say no, instead of just saying yes and taking on even more work, or developing time for ourselves. Like, no, this is going to be the day or the time I take just for myself or special self-care. So it's important for all of us to really do that, and then to create an action plan. So that's pretty important for us all to do. So really think about what your particular action plan is. So I always talk about brainstorming. I love English class. So I love when the teacher would give us that piece of paper for us to brainstorm ideas. And so I always encourage people to write down on a piece of paper what they can do or what changes they need to make to really help with their own particular burnout. So, sometimes it's not nice. It doesn't feel good when people come at us and tell us, maybe it's you and everything, you're the problem, because we are the problem. We have the power, we have the control. And when you constantly blame things outside of you, it's not saying that it's not true. You may not have a good boss. The patients may be awful. You may be bullied or discriminated and everything like that. Then basically, you stay in victim mode instead of empowering yourself. But when you take complete ownership of your own life, then you're empowered to make those changes that you need to make. And then once you start doing that, stuff just starts happening. That's what happened with me. Once I stopped, just being in victim mode, my world opened up. So many opportunities happen. And so I really just try to have other people see the light as well, because it can happen for all of us. And it's something daily we have to work on. Daily, we have to work on our mindset. Dr. Lara.
My turn. So, I love what you said, because it's one of my favorite things to think about is there's really a fine line between blame and responsibility. And blame comes with so much shame, and that is victimy, and responsibility is power. And so I love that you pointed that out. So yeah, my approach to finding the treatment plan is, for everyone, I always think start with the basics of self-care. Start with eating healthy, getting sleep, exercising, because what I've seen is when I work with a dentist who is not doing anything to take care of themselves, and this goes back to boundaries, right? It's all boundaries actually. But when they start doing that, they get this initial boost where suddenly they feel really good. And so if you start doing that and it works, great. You found a great step to burnout treatment. If it doesn't work, then we need to go to the next level. And agreeing with what you say, Kari, is where I would jump into the mindset here. And one of the things that I've noticed over and over is that there are certain qualities or ways of thinking that we as dental professionals share that leads to more burnout. So perfectionism, anybody a perfectionist, right? When we totally, when we are putting the pressure on ourselves to be perfect, there's what I've found is what's behind that is a genuine desire to help people. We really want, even though earlier I said I hated patients, that's not me. That's not who I am. It's how I felt and who I thought I was, but it's not true, right? So my desire was always so much, I just want to make everything perfect for my patients because I genuinely cared for them. The problem is when we create that bar of perfection, well, one, we can never hit it. And then if you think about that, you're never hitting your bar. You're never hitting the goalpost that you've set for yourself. So you're always failing. It ends up creating this scenario where you are really just carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. So really seeing, okay, am I focusing on too much being perfectionism? Because the other thing that happens now, curious if anyone's experienced this, is when you are trying to be perfect, the thought in your head is, okay, I'm going to make it so that there's no consequences for my patient. But then what if, or this could be with someone that you work with on the team, right? But then what if they don't appreciate what you've done for them? Then it makes you feel more resentful or more frustrated or taken advantage of, or, like, what's the point? And so a lot of that goes with burnout. So take a look at, like, where are you being a perfectionist? And then the other quality that I think is very common is wanting to be liked. Mm-hmm. As dental professionals, we got into this so we could have great relationships with other people, and we just want to be liked. And so again, that ties into the perfectionism and creates this pressure. It's really the weight of the world on our shoulders, this pressure to be the hero. And eventually it catches up with you. It's not sustainable. And that's what leads to burnout. So to Kari's point about boundaries, I would say, now, if this is kind of fun, Kari, because you're talking about boundaries from other people. I'm going to say boundaries to protect you from yourself, protect you from your own brain, protect you from, wanting to please everyone and wanting to say yes all the time, and really catching yourself going home at night and worrying for 2 hours while you're in bed, supposed to be sleeping, is not a good boundary. So it's like that, protect yourself from your brain, So it's a real practice. And when we can start to let go of some of those unrealistic expectations, then we can shed some of that extra weight. And so that does tie into the what Kari was saying, like therapy, working with a coach, doing some personal development. If we don't do the personal development, we'll never change our mindset. We'll never get out of this rut. And then consider that if none of those things are working, then maybe it is the career, or maybe it is the job. And Kari and I talk about this all the time. Maybe you need to look for something else. And this happened in our breakout room, is people they cured their momentary burnout by actually leaving. So I don't know, did you have anything you wanted to add on that, Kari?
I appreciate you saying about the people pleasing, because I know that that's something I continue to work on, and that's big in our field. That's why so many people, like I have a Facebook group that has a whole lot of people in it, and we always talk about people pleasing, because we will sacrifice so much to make other people like us. Like as hygienists, I know when I first got into hygiene, I wasn't always doing the right treatment. I'd be like, I did more, but don't tell anyone, because I didn't want the patient to have to pay. And I was doing something totally incorrect, and I shouldn't have done it. The patient needed SRP. I shouldn't have been doing a super prophy under the table and everything, so the patient would like me. And then sometimes they didn't even appreciate it, or whatever. So yeah, so, I'm like, I helped you out and everything. So that people pleasing is a big deal. And then, recognizing that not everyone is going to like you. Even some of your colleagues, even some people who you looked up to, who you may, talk about in your courses, not everyone is going to necessarily always like you. Some people will cut you off, just like you have to cut them off and everything. And it's not to say that there's any animosity, but you have to protect yourself just as well. And so that's been a problem that I'd had before, where, I used to, at one time, my bully was bullying me, and I shared my instruments with her, and then she used them all one day and didn't even sterilize them, and then lied about it. So we have to stop doing these things to ourselves and protect ourselves from ourselves, like Dr. Laura was saying. So yeah, and then also, like she said, changing our environment, that could be key. Either leaving our field or finding something that is a variety of our field. So something that is going to interest us, something different. So if you've always done the same clinical dentistry or something, maybe you need to be in a different setting, like a hospital setting or a nursing home, a mobile or remote. Finding something that's going to put you in passion again, or even volunteering can definitely help. So there's so many different things that we have to work, but we have to put in that work of personal development and self-development, because we can only change ourselves and everything. We can't necessarily change the environment of our job. I have tried and everything. We can't necessarily change other people, how they treat us. We can only change how we react to situations. And that takes a lot of emotional intelligence and development upon ourselves. So.
Yeah. I just want to talk about that control thing, because we mentioned it before, and Anne mentioned it, how we hadn't talked about that. And it is such a big deal, because creating these boundaries allows us to take back control. And one of the things I would suggest to people, if you do find that you're a perfectionist or a people pleaser, is to just notice in your life. This has been life-changing for me, because I didn't fully know this about myself until I found out about it by taking one of those personality type assessments. And I was shocked, because every time I get triggered, if I trace it back to the source of why I'm triggered by something, it's the reason I get really upset is because I feel bad for the other person.
Yes.
So it's crazy. I mean, if you're in dental practice, or if you're in a non-clinical type of setting, notice, just play with it. Just notice when you get triggered by something. So let's say I don't know, do you have anything, Kari, that's triggered you recently?
Yeah. Yes, I do. So I had something recently where someone basically severed the connection that they had with me just online and everything. Like I didn't know. And then I looked and I'm like, oh, I didn't know I was blocked and everything. I didn't know that I was blocked. What did I do? And then you start thinking, like, did I say something? Did I do something? And everything. Why didn't the person talk to me? I really, I felt a little hurt. And then I was like, well, I actually was thrown shade quite a number of times by the person. And I just, ignored it and smooth it out. And, I have a particular brand to protect, or I try to be positive. And, I wasn't authentic in the response at times. So that was a little triggering, because you do start thinking about, like, is it me? Did I say something? And did I gossip? You start going through like a whole mind thing, thinking like, did I gossip about the person? Did I do something? Did I say something wrong? I don't think I said anything wrong. And so that's me. And that I always think like I do something wrong. So if Ann goes, Kari, I need to talk to you. And I'm going to be like, what did I do? If the doctor says, hey, Kari, I need to talk to you by the end of the day. I'm like, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? So it's always, and I never usually do anything wrong, but I always put myself in the principal office and everything, where I have to think through like, what did I do wrong and everything? I must have messed up somehow and everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming up with an example. I just want to give you like a big applause, because I couldn't think of an example. So you're awesome. But that example is like the perfect type of situation to look at when you have a conflict. The feeling was you felt hurt, and what triggered you was you noticed that someone blocked you on Facebook, and that made you feel hurt. And then what about it made you feel hurt? Like, I mean, you just mentioned that you thought it was something you did, right? And what were you most worried about if you had done something?
I guess I would be like, I don't like to do things. I was hoping I didn't hurt the person, or did I say something wrong? Or did someone I had confidence with share something with the person? Like, who was the person who I shouldn't trust with the confidence or something like, so you start like saying, what all happened? Who am I not trusting? Or what did I do? And so many different things, and you don't know.
Right. And what you said was you were worried about hurting the other person. Mm-hmm. So notice with everything. So this will apply to a lot of us in this room, I think. Notice that whenever you're triggered by something, it could be anything. It could be driving in your car in traffic and someone cuts you off and you think, oh, well, I wouldn't have done that to that person, because you're trying to be considerate to others all the time. These are when you notice, oh, it's because I'm trying too much to help the other person. I care too much about them. That's what gets us so upset. So maybe in practice, if you're worried about making a patient upset, if you can recognize your patterning and start, or even a team member, recognize your patterning and go, well, what is my other option? Maybe instead of feeling like it's my responsibility to make sure this other person's okay, maybe I can allow them the responsibility. I can allow my patient to know that they're going to be okay if I tell them they need scaling and root planing. I don't have to carry that for them. Because when we carry that, that's what burns us out.